We're live now, and it's good to be back on this program, Life and Relationship Realities with Tolu Alabi. And today is a beautiful day, especially here in Colorado. It's sunny. It's beautiful. Last week it's been so cold, so it's good to have some sunshine, really. And I want to appreciate the people that are going to be joining, that are already joining us right now. And I'm so excited today because of my guest. She's not a guest to me. And she's been here about 2 times. And I'm just going to introduce her to you. The new thing, what has changed since she came the last time, is that she was a grandmom last time she came, but now she's become a great grandmother. That's so amazing. And so I'm going to introduce my very senior friend. She's a senior friend to me. She's a mother to me. I call her up all the time. If I need counsel, if I need prayer, she's there. She's a grandmother to my boys. And so my guest today, Mrs. Lynn Zolman, is so many things to me. And I really appreciate her. And it's a pleasure, Miss Lynn, to welcome you. You're welcome.
Hello, and thank you, Tolu. It's wonderful to be with you on your show. You're a very special woman.
Thank you. Yeah, so I call her Miss Lynn, and that's what I'm going to be calling her on this program. Miss Lynn she has two beautiful daughters. I mean, I've met one of them. I've met Linda. She's amazing with her husband here in Colorado, and she has wonderful grandchildren. And now, like I said, great grandchild. One amazing thing with Miss Lynn is the strength that she possesses, even at over 80 years old. I was talking with my brother yesterday. We met at Aurora, and we were just talking about her. And I was telling her, I said, when Zion graduated, of course, she drove us there. I was scared of driving to that mountain, and Miss Lynn was so brave. She took all of us there, and when we had to climb up to the mountain there, and I was still struggling to go. I was going and breathing heavily, and before I know it, Miss Lynn has gone up right there. And I was that, oh my goodness. And my brother said something yesterday. He said, oh, that woman is going to be 90 something, about 100 years old. And I said, I'll be so glad. I'll be so glad to have her. So Miss Lynn is wonderful. She's been so many things. She's volunteering in so many places. She's leading our prayer group that we do weekly also. Miss Lynn, thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all that you do. God bless you and strengthen you.
You are most welcome.
So let's start about your husband. I want you to say something about him. Just say something first about him before we dive into this beautiful love story. What can you say about your husband?
He was the most wonderful man that I've ever met, and he loved, honored, and cherished his family, and his family loved, honored, and cherished him.
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, after so many years, you can still say beautiful things about him. That's awesome. I remember I met you the year your husband died, and that was how we started this relationship. So let's talk about your marriage. If you're asked to say something about your marriage in few words, what would those words or those few statements be?
We loved each other. We were great friends, and we could disagree and listen to each other and work things out.
Wow. I love that, Miss Lynn. You were great friends. I think that's one major thing that sometimes get missing in relationship, especially marriage. And after a while, people begin to take specific role. I'm the husband, I'm the head of the home. And the wife too is saying, oh, I'm the woman of the home. And the friendship, people begin to lose touch of the friendship. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. So let me quickly ask you, how did you maintain this friendship, even for the length years that you stayed together? How did you maintain friendship with your husband?
How did we maintain friendship? Um, we listened to each other. We just were, you know, he was my best friend. I don't know how to answer that question really. He was very understanding, and I could get really hyper and everything, and he was my tether pole. Have you ever seen a tether ball on a pole? And I was the ball that bounced around and came up with all sorts of ideas. And he just stood there and waited until I calmed down and finally decided, oh, that wasn't such a good idea after all.
That was amazing. That means that there was no time where there was friction of, oh, I'm the boss here. It saw you more as a friend and as a mate, isn't it?
Yes, we were partners.
Mm.
Partners. I had specific roles and strengths, and he had specific strengths and roles. And we just kind of put our strengths together and managed to work as partners.
Wow. You know, Miss Lynn, somebody said God didn't remove the rib from Adam under his feet. He removed the rib by his side. And so when couples work as partners and work as friends, they enjoy beautiful marriage, isn't it?
Yes, that I would agree with that totally. We we met when we were in college. I was 17 when I met him, and we met at a sorority and fraternity party, and just everything. We just hit it off really marvelous. And then when he took me home, back to my dorm, my roommate was there, and she kind of informed him that he should take me to coffee. Well, he couldn't get away from it. So the next week we went out to coffee. It was awful. It was just terrible. And so I knew I probably wouldn't go out with him again. And that's when I learned that you don't tell Dick what to do. You suggest, but you don't tell him what to do. So there, we met. It was the following semester that he asked me out, and we started dating, and that was it. We just kind of knew.
Okay, it was cracking. I didn't hear much, but I'm sure that people heard what you
Oh, I'm so
said.
sorry.
No, it's okay, Miss Lee. Okay, yeah, I think people heard the things you said. So when you met, I've asked you this question on this program before. When you met your husband, what was the thing that made you feel, yeah, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? What was the attraction really?
He was tall and fair and he had no hair. He was balding. But he had friends just everywhere. And he was just he was handsome. He was just great.
Wow.
So wonderful.
Wow. That was a great combination.
You like
So
my
let's,
little poem? I do.
you said what?
You liked my little poem? He was tall and fair. He had no hair. And there was one other thing. He had a small butt. His behind was really small. I didn't like men with big hips. So at first, it was a physical appearance and attraction, but then we got to talking, and it just was so easy to talk to him.
Wow.
I hope you're here.
Yeah, I can hear. That's good. You know, it's always good to find a man that can communicate well. You know, a man that both of you just can understand one another. It's not a perfect thing, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, Miss Lynn, you want to say something?
Yes, when he gave me his fraternity pin, it was the following year, and when he gave it to me, I knew by this time I was seriously in love, and he gave it to me, and he said, "I want this to be forever." And I thought, you know, so many people would get a pin just to have a fraternity pin, and then it wasn't me, it wasn't him. We both really wanted to be together. So it was kind of an engaged to be engaged to think.
Okay.
And then
Pre-engagement.
we dated for 4.5 years before we got married, and told him at the time, I want to know the best of you and the worst of you. And I want you to know the best of me and the worst of me. And we'll see if this really will work. And it did.
Okay, so did you see the worst of him, and how did you react to it?
It was difficult, but I really loved him, and he was my friend, and you don't desert a friend. You just kind of hang in there and find ways to overcome that.
Okay.
I
think it was also sincerity to be able to open up, you know, to each other's and be vulnerable to one another, because sometimes people are dating and all they want to put forward is their best side, you know, and then people get married and they're like, oh, seriously, are you like this? You know, and then the deed is done and the covenant is enacted, and it's like you have to live with it. I think sometimes the betrayal of that is some people not, they don't want to pretend, you know, it's just that other side didn't come up, you know. But it was good that both of you decided to say, let's have both sides, you know, and see how that works. I like the sincerity.
we have to.
Are you there, Miss Lynn?
I am here.
Okay.
I just didn't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember one disagreement that we had. Would you like to hear about it?
That would be great.
It was intense. He had just come home from sea, and we had a baby, a 2-year-old, a baby, and I was it was the day of my last training to be a gray lady, who's a woman who helps out in the hospitals. And so I wanted to take that training. Normally I would have gotten a babysitter, but he was home, so I left him with the girls. That evening, we had a very intense discussion sitting on the front porch. He was furious that I would leave him with his children. I'm going, hello? You're the father. Well, what I didn't understand is that the poor man had no clue to these two little girls. I mean, one was an infant and the other was a 2-year-old, and he hadn't been around. So he didn't know them very well. And I never left him alone with the girls again. Never, until they were teenagers. Because even when we were grandparents and we would go, the girls knew that it would be either me alone or both of us together, but it would never be Dick alone.
Yeah.
We do have a pause anyway.
That wasn't part of his training.
Yeah. So, but no, I finally realized what was going on. I just said, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll get a sitter. You can go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that was also good, instead of trying to fight over something like, oh, why can't you get used to it? It's better to make peace sometimes and concentrate on the strength, isn't it?
Right. He had many strengths. Babysitting was not one.
Okay. Miss Lynn, let's talk about love. We're talking about love, even though we've talked a lot about love, friendship, and so on. But what was it that, love, what was love for both of you? What was love? If you say to him, I love you, what were you saying? And if he said to you, I love you, Lynn, what was he saying? What did love mean to both of you?
It meant wanting to be together. It meant wanting to talk together. It meant doing things together. It meant encouraging each other and sharing ideas and pointing out defects sometimes. I remember one time he told me that, as a Christian, you're supposed to walk the talk. And he told me I was not walking the talk. I could talk a good game, I wasn't acting right. And so I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out, okay, what is it I need to do? I read books, I did all sorts of things, but I knew that he saw something that I wasn't aware of. And I treasured the fact that he was able to have the courage to look at me and say that.
Wow, that was awesome. Was there any time that you had to do that? You may not tell us the details, but was there any time that you had to do the same to him, to correct, to say, oh, this area or something?
Yes, there was.
No.
It was a very difficult time. I lived with it for 17 years and things finally came to a head, and I was able to find someone who could guide me and help me figure out a way to handle the situation. And the suggestion was, oh my gosh, you really want me to do that? And I finally got the courage to do it, and voila, it changed.
Wow.
It went away. so amazing. His willpower was incredible.
Wow. Wow. You know why I asked that question, Miss Lynn? Because we see in situation in marriage today where they can't correct one another. If one person is trying to correct, I'm not talking about correcting in a very bad manner. I'm talking about proper correction. And some people just can't stand even their partners saying, oh, can you look into this area of your life? Maybe that's gonna make things better. You know, the person is just filled with pride or sometimes arrogance if he's a lady, and like, no, you can't tell me what to do. How do you look into that in marriage today when such things happen? You know.
I mean, we need, I'm sorry, I've got something going on with my hair that's bugging me. We need to be patient and listen to each other and show love and encouragement. Men do not like to be told, they don't like to be criticized. They need praise for what they do right. Forget about the wrongs, put those aside, and just when you see something you really like, you say, oh, you're so wonderful, da, 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 and tell them why. But don't start criticizing. You probably get that at work. So it's nice to come home and have that be your safe place where you can be you and yet and be praised for what you do right or well.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is because I'm had to deal with a couple. The wife is getting into the husband is getting into extramarital affair, and he will come back home from another woman, and the wife will talk about it, and he didn't want to talk about it, and he felt that the wife was disrespectful, talking to him. And I said, no, this is not a normal situation. You can't keep seeing another woman when you're married to this woman and you expect her to keep quiet on that. So in that situation, I don't know if the woman is watching. I'm not able to see all the people that are watching. What can she do? I mean, it's not like he had extramarital affair. It's an ongoing thing.
Oh, so it's on. He thinks he has two women. Well, that's a good question. What can she do? I never had to face that. I know, I'll tell you a little story. When we were first married, Dick gave me a book about how his wife behaved. And they were deployed for longer periods of time. And men had extramarital affairs. And I just told Dick, I said, if you do that, I better never hear of it. So I never did, and I'm sure he didn't, because he was so, his name was, he wanted to keep his name very respected, away from all, things that would cause, I mean, even on taxes, he was so very, very honest. He didn't want, even the tax man said, oh my gosh, you don't have to report that. And Dick said, I want to report it. So, I mean, everything had to be above board and wonderful. So I didn't have to deal with that. I don't know what she could do. If he's determined to keep it up, I wouldn't be very happy. I would probably say, oh, you have a choice, her or me. I'm out of here if it's her.
Yeah, because I mean, It is. And then some women are doing something wrong, and the husband is trying to say, no, don't do this, and there you go. She flares up. She doesn't want to be corrected at all,
Mm.
you know.
Well, that's none of us like it, but sometimes we need it. Sometimes we need to be told,
Yeah.
this is not, I don't like this behavior and I'm not happy with it. Can you change? And I think marriage is full of change. I mean, my marriage is one change after another. My whole life has been one change after another. So I think I'm getting off your topic and what you want, but we have to be, women have to be able to accept
Mhm.
criticism and figure out, is this valid or not?
Mm.
And if it's not valid, then that's one thing. But if it's valid, then you need to change. You need to stop behavior. And if the person, if your partner doesn't like it, then why wouldn't you change?
Mhm.
Because she is the most important person in the world,
Mhm.
other than God.
Yeah. That's the thing. I thank you for bringing that up, because change is very important. And for me, I feel like if you really don't want to change, then you just be by yourself, you know, because even if you're by yourself, you will still need to change some things, to live where you are all by yourself. So let's talk about, at what point did you ever had an experience where you felt like you were growing apart? Because it happening in marriages, and people are married and happy, and at some point they start growing apart, and the love that they once shared uh, doesn't get strong any longer. And some people struggle to come back, to rekindle the love and continue going. And then sometimes people like, just, oh, I'm out of this marriage because I don't feel the love again. I don't love you anymore. So have you ever experienced such a thing? Or if you have not, what can you say to people that are experiencing that feel like, oh, I don't love my wife anymore. I don't think I want to be married because I don't love her anymore.
We grew apart in many ways because my husband was in the Navy and they deployed. And I remember one time he was gone for 7 months, and we had an infant and a 2-year-old when he left, and he was gone for 7 months. So my parents always came for Christmas. And I told them not to come that Christmas because the ship was coming in and we needed time to get together as a family again, to find out how to live after this 7 months, because everybody changes in that amount of time. Children certainly do. So he called me from ship to shore, a phone call like that, and said his mother was coming for Christmas. And I said, I just told my parents not, we need them together as a family, and we can go see them in January if you have leave, if you can take leave. And I knew he would. But that time, we need to come together again as a family to find out what's been happening, who's what. And I remember he looked at his little 2-year-old who was climbing all over the swing set, even to the top. And he said, she can't do that. And I thought, she's been doing that for a long time. And then he saw her climb a tree and he said, she can't do that. And I said, well, obviously. And then she was running and jumping off the picnic table, and that got him upset. And I said, Dick, you need to choose one. She's going to climb. which is the worst. So climbing the tree was the answer. But it's just kind of, sometimes a little time apart will let you know that you really want to be together. At least that was our case. But our time apart wasn't by choice. It was the needs of the military. That was during Vietnam. And it went to the ship went to the Western Pacific to be close to that. And it was pretty intense time for the world. So, but we just, I didn't really answer the question you wanted, but I'm just giving you guidance on how, when you've been separated, you can get back together again, just by walking small steps, a little at a time, and being intentional about it.
I think
And
that's
the idea to me is that we promise to love, honor, and cherish in our marriage. You know, it was part of our marriage vows, and we both wanted that to be forever, even though we had disagreements. Sometimes it was like, oh gosh, do I really have to put up with you any longer? You just do it. At least I did. And
wow.
but
So
if both people are not on the same page and wanting to make it last forever, wanting to find ways to get together, and it won't work. It takes two.
It takes two. Miss Lynn, I think one thing you said, about, and even those last part, to say that two people deciding to say, we're going to stay together forever. I mean, after a year that you met your husband, and both of you were dating then, and he told you this is for life. For me, it's something that is strong, and he was doing his part, to make the relationship work. Because sometimes someone can say this is for life, but they're not willing to do what it's gonna take for the relationship to be happy forever. Because it's not just about celebrating 57 years of marriage or 60 years of marriage. You want to celebrate 57 years of happy married life.
That's
I
right.
mean, you want to have more happy years than unhappy, if you ever have at all. And so it's not the land, but the beauty of it. And you said something about what you wrote in your vows, what your vows were about. Even after about 60 years of marriage, you can still remember what it was part of. Some people get married and the next week they can't even remember the vows they made. They can't even remember that I made a vow to honor this man or this woman. I made a vow to be there for this man, for this woman, because I'm seeing reasons why you were able to have that marriage. Both of you were willing to work it out. Even when you grew apart for that 7 months, both of you are still willing. I have people here. Thank you, Sister Bola, Pastor Rosemary, Miss Pastor Innocent, Favor, all the people that are watching. I'm just trying to say hello to them. So you were willing to make that issue work. Okay, you said my parents don't come for Christmas, and did he agree eventually for his mom not to come for Christmas also?
Yes, he did. So they did not come. Neither side came for Christmas, and we went to visit them in January. And we really, it took some little maneuvering for him to come back into the family after being on a ship. I mean, it's a separation. I'll tell you a little background. Dick's parents were divorced, and his parents' were divorced, and he and his brother both broke that tradition in the family. They were very, very, I mean, faithful young men. And as they grew older, they remained faithful because they knew what it was like for them growing up when their parents couldn't make it work. So the impact you have when you're in your behavior really impacts your children, if you have any. They are watching and they carry on whatever. I know my parents, I didn't want the marriage they had. I wanted what we had. We had a seriously, I can't say enough good about our marriage and about my husband.
Wow.
And when I'm going to get ahead of you. When he passed away, he had cancer in his lung, which was near the superior vena cava, which is the blood vessel that leads back to the heart from getting the blood throughout the body, and then it takes it back to the heart and the lungs to clean it out. And this cancer pressed against that. So it was difficult for him to breathe. There was a lot of swelling. It impacted his heart. And he was miserable. And I told him, and I told him all along with all his illnesses, it's your body, it's your decision. If you want treatment, fine. Otherwise, that's okay too. Whatever you want is what I make sure you have. And hard as it was, sometimes you have to let go for the good of the other person. I don't know if that helps, but it's an ending. And sometimes you just have to let go, whether it's to death or to something that's just causing everybody misery. Sometimes you have to let go.
Wow. That was really deep. And thanks so much for sharing that. That was personal. Miss Lynn, you said something about the fact that his parents were divorced. One of the things that shocked me at the way that sometimes when during my counseling with people is someone has gone through a very pleasant experience of their parent breaking up and suffer that. What I think that your husband did was what I would expect such a person to do, to say, oh, I want to have a better marriage. I don't want what happened to my parent to happen to me. But sometimes I don't see that determination in people. They go just right through the same route. The same thing the father did, they want to do it. The same thing the mother did, they want to do it. So how do you have a different life when you're doing exactly what the person did that failed? Why do people still do that same thing, follow the same route and not have the determination and say, this marriage is going to work. I'm not going to allow this continue with me.
How do you do that? Willpower. You have to be committed. That's why we went together so long. Well, first of all, we were in college and young, and then he graduated a year before I did, and we waited another year because we knew we couldn't afford to be married. And so I think we just took that time because we wanted to make sure we weren't going to follow in the same footsteps that our parents did. But if you don't take it and you're in it, golly, that's a hard one, isn't it? It's as I say, it takes two, and if both aren't willing, and you can't complement each other, it won't work. It's sad.
That's very good.
You
I was going to ask about, sorry, Miss Lynn, you can go ahead.
you were going to ask me about
I was going to ask about
finance.
respect in your marriage. Even though we've talked about something, but I'm still going to ask about the marriage. Like, how did respect work for you? How did your husband respect you, and how did you respect him? You know, how were you guys able to respect one another? Which for me is key. Respect is key in marriage, in relationship. How did it work out for both of you?
How did we respect each other?
Yeah, what did you
Uh,
do to show respect? You know?
I I'm having a hard time with that. I There were certain things in the Navy that were required, and some were to go to parties that you didn't want to go to. But the
Mm,
words were, "You will go and you will have a good time." And I thought, okay, I'm going to get all dressed up. I'm going to enjoy this party, because why go if you're not going to try to have a good time? And so that was one way of respecting some of the things that he was required to do with
mm,
his wife, um,
mm.
in a way that was showing respect. Um, I just looked up to him. I um, I just let him know he was very special and wonderful. How did I do that? It's been a long time. um, I just respected his wishes, just like when he didn't want to take treatment for his illness. I respected that. I gave him that respect. I guess I gave him my permission to make those decisions. Um, I If he had an opinion, oh, I'll tell you a story. Um, we were He wanted to rearrange the living room, but he didn't say anything because his comment was, you won't want that to anyway. And I said, let's try it. So we
Mm.
tried it, and I liked it. I liked his way that he wanted it arranged. And that way, I mean, that was a thing that I had run the house for so long because he was away or working or something, and the house was mine to deal with. So he didn't really want to tell me he didn't like something about it, but
Mm.
he didn't. So he eventually told me, and we worked it out. And so my respect was allowing him to do that, to make a change and feel good about it. Does
Mm.
that make any sense to you? Um, One of our agreements, because of the way we handled things, is that the house was mine and the children were, I listened to him about what he wanted for the children, and then I incorporated that. So that's a form of respect. And as I was bringing them up, he was deployed or something. But the house was mine. I paid the bills. I did all that. And he sent money to the bank for me so I could do all that. And his work was his little corner of the world, whatever he did in the Navy, which I don't know a lot about, because if he'd told me, he would have had to shoot me. He didn't want to do that.
That was good
He
of
had a
him.
lot of he had a lot of secret clearances, and there were things that he didn't talk about.
Yeah. Miss Lynn, even though I didn't meet your husband, but I just wish that it could be around to mentor a lot of men, especially young men growing, because I mean, when you started talking about things, I was like, what is there not to like about him anyway? Because when you see a man that is willing to do the right thing, that is willing to live with such dignity and respect for a woman, I mean, it's just going to be natural for you to do the same, for him, to say, this is it. I mean, it's not, nobody's perfect, but willing to make adjustment and doing what is right is always key. I remember when I met my husband, the first thing I said, one of the first thing I said, truth means everything to me. Integrity is the thing. If we're gonna be true, if you say good morning, I can look out and it's truly morning, then I'm glad. I don't want to
And
say,
it's
I don't,
good.
yeah, I don't want a situation where you greet me good morning and I look out and it's 4 p.m. You know, it's kind. And I told him, I said, that's it. I'm not going to require that you buy me the whole world or anything, but just be truthful. And I think it's very good if men and women, we both think about right values and work together. I always say, Miss Lynn, you're a blessed woman. God has blessed you with so many things. Wonderful husband, godly children, great grandchildren, and now great
Great grand.
grandson. You're really blessed. Let's talk about conflict. Even though we've talked about it, like how to resolve conflict, you've talked about it. It's like both of you look at things together and both of you are able to make adjustment. But let's talk about conflict in the sense when, have there ever been a situation when both of you felt you were right? What did you do? How did you resolve that conflict? It happens in marriage. The husband is right, the wife is right, but things are wrong. So how did you resolve conflicts like that?
Okay. When we were first married, Dick had, his mother did it too. He would put money in envelopes marked um, savings, uh, expenses, household expenses, and this is for entertainment or something like that. And I'm looking at him going, wouldn't it be better to put it in the bank? And so uh, finally we got that result. I wasn't going to do the envelope thing. That to me seemed really, so we finally got to the point where we could put it in the bank. Well, what we were working out of the same bank account, we could communicate. If he sent a letter, it was 2 weeks from the time he wrote it, time I got it. And so 2 week pause when you're dealing with finance is kind of funny. So every time he would come home, he would ask me how much money we had in the bank. That would almost be his first question, which really was rather annoying. And so one time he came home and he asked the same question, how much money do we have in the bank? And I said, 67 cents. But the Christmas presents are all bought. You get paid. You get paid tomorrow and the bills are all paid. So we're going to be okay. At that point, the look on his face was just shock because, of course, he spent money out of the same account. So he decided we need two banking accounts, one for you and one for me. So we did, and we spent our lives each dealing out of different accounts. He had his, I had mine. He sent money he gave money to me every month so that I could pay all the bills and do all that stuff. I invested our money for a long, long time. I did the investing and buying of stocks, and but it was all out of the one account. I wasn't allowed to touch his account, and he didn't touch mine. It worked, but
That was good.
Somehow
Both of you had the understanding.
you have to find a solution. And that was, he came up with that solution, and I thought, okay, that's fine.
That was, Miss Lynn, when you started talking about that, I remember when I got married too, that was the same thing. And my husband brought out all of these envelopes and they've been all marked. This is for feeding, this is tied, this is that, and I kind of struggled a lot, but I mean, I didn't have the courage to say, okay, let's change it. So because we kept the envelopes for years, you know, and well, I think it's good to find what works together. But I mean, I picked something from what you said. Both of you still, even at the point that you had your separate account, both of you still had your money together.
Right.
You were able
Right.
to plan together. Yeah, so
Oh,
there was no,
absolutely. One,
yeah.
our first child was born, I mean, this is again how you work a solution. He was sitting at the kitchen table saying, when she learns to drive, she's going to have to pay for her own insurance, and she's going to have to do da da da. And I'm going, this is a baby, and we're talking about driving. And he gave me this whole list of things that was going to happen with this child. And so I put it in my brain, and I thought, okay, these things are important to him, and I will honor that, and I will make sure that however, she never did have to pay for her own insurance until she left home and was on her own, but not as a teenager. It was, he came around on that one, but it was so funny. But I think he knew that because he was going to be gone, he wanted some kind of input in how the children were raised. And so I listened, and I did honor it for the most part. Not everything.
Wow, that was beautiful. That understanding was what's amazing. It's good for couple to understand one another. I mean, it's really obvious with that. So I want us to say, like, if you're gonna give, what the things happening in marriages today, in lives today, things are not like it used to be during your days. There are so many distractions in marriages right now, and so many things that comes to threaten understanding of couples, individual pressure and so many other things. And the fact that a lot of people have not come to that resolve to say that this marriage will last. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to contribute. And the other person saying it, because like you also mentioned, it's not a one person thing. Marriage has to be both party. So what would your advice be for marriages that are struggling today?
Put down your iPhone and pay attention to the person who's sitting at the table with you. I mean, I was at a restaurant on Saturday morning, and there were two people having breakfast, and they're both on their iPhones. They never
Oh,
said a word. I thought, what? Why are you here together? Why didn't you just stay home and play with your
mhm,
iPhone?
mhm,
That's one distraction. I think it's really scary to how much influence. There was a young girl in church the other day. Actually, she's a teenager, and she sat there the whole time in her iPhone. And I don't know whether she was playing a game or whatever. She certainly wasn't paying attention to anything going on in the church. And I thought, why are you here? I think that young people today, in many cases, not all cases, have had too much. Their parents been protected, and they really had to stand on their own 2 feet, and they don't know how.
Mm.
Somehow they have to take those baby steps to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet.
Mm.
And how to do that, it takes time. It will probably take quite a few years to overcome that basic insecurity, I guess I'd say.
Mm.
And maybe that's part of it. It's an feeling of security, a feeling of, well, I should have this because me.
Mm.
Well, that's ridiculous. You might have to learn to get along without it. The only thing I can say is that you just have to learn that you are not the center of the world. We have a wonderful God. He's created wonderful things. And your wife or your husband is one of those wonderful things that was created, and you have a purpose, and you need to find out what that is and go for it. But it's not your purpose for you. You aren't the center.
Mm. Mm.
And I guess that's the best advice. And people aren't going to like that.
Mm. That's true. Yeah, Miss Lynn, it's been amazing.
You're not. You are smaller than a little ant in the whole idea of creation. So just get over yourself.
Mm. I guess so. I guess so. That's true. Miss Lynn, I'm so grateful that you've come today, and you've released from your wealth of knowledge and experience. You've been a blessing to me. You're a great blessing to me. You're a great blessing to my family. Because I see you, I see the things you do, and I'm inspired. And it's made me change my prayer request over and over again, and I'm really so glad. I'm really so glad that my path crossed yours on this earth, because it's made me a better person. And I really celebrate you, and I really honor you. You're an amazing
Well,
woman, and you're wonderful.
I thank you. I thank you so much, Tolu. But I want you to know that your family is a blessing to me too. Your boys are so special. You're doing a great job with them. They're extremely special. You are amazing. So thank you.
Thank you too. So thank you so much for coming. What's your great grandson's name?
Aiden Josiah.
Aiden. Yeah.
And
I remember
they wanted
I
to
remember I was
what
sorry.
Josiah mean? What
Okay.
does Josiah mean?
Okay. I said I was gonna call him Aiden. Ezra has a friend that is named Aiden, and Ezra likes that friend so much. So I'm gonna honestly remember Aiden. That's a beautiful name. So thank you
I
so
get
much for.
to meet him tomorrow. I'm
Oh,
going to meet him.
wow, lovely. I'm
Uh,
sure we'll see
yeah,
some pictures of great grandmom and great grandson. Wow, that would be beautiful.
I get some. Yes.
Thank you, Miss Lynn. I'm gonna be calling you some other time, obviously, to come up. You're still strong, and we still need you around, obviously. So thank
Oh,
you for
goodness. I feel so inadequate.
thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you very much. So viewers, that's how far we can go today. We're gonna have another edition next week. Yeah, actually next month that is starting tomorrow is a month set for celebrating women. That's a month for women. And so I want to say to you, appreciate your parent. It's not Mother's Day in America. Mother's Day is still May, but the month of March is the month to celebrate women generally. And so celebrate your wives, celebrate your mothers, your grandmothers, your great grandmothers, and celebrate all the women in your life. So next week, I'm going to start talking about Woman Arise. I'm going to talk to women specifically. So I'll see you then. Miss Lynn, thank you again for coming. Bye-bye, viewers. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.